So today I want to talk about a bit of a controversial topic or debatable topic, to stretch or not to stretch. So before we get into it, I'm referring to kind of before and after exercise. Should you stretch or should you not? So if you're someone who does frequent exercise, this will be really relevant to you. So keep on watching, keep on listening. Welcome back to consecutive day 1809 of a diary of a runpreneur. And today's topic is all about to stretch or not to stretch before and after exercise. So it's going to be a little bit debatable, controversial at points. I will be sharing kind of my experiences, whether they're scientifically proven or not. But yeah, that's the kind of topic. But before we get into that, please don't forget that this vlog is part of a fundraiser of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultramarathon of run vlogging, on consecutive days, a distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style. And the more people we get in front of, the more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. So back to the topic at hand, to stretch or not to stretch. So as always, this vlog is like a diary for me. So obviously respect the kind of privacy element of sharing my life with the world. So I normally kind of keep it masked to a certain degree, but my feelings, my emotions, my experiences are all true and valid. And that's really important to me, that it's genuine, it's authentic. And today's episode is about to stretch and not to stretch, because I'm away on a bit of a retreat at the moment, and it's beautiful, it's amazing. I've been doing my runs every day as always, but I've also been playing a little bit of golf. And I don't play a lot of golf at all. I probably haven't played in the last couple of years. And I've played 3 rounds in 3 days. And as a result, you know, I'm using muscles that I'm potentially not familiar with using or not used to using on that level of frequency. Now, as a result, I've woken up each morning, and the only way you can describe it, I'm 43 years of age, and I've been getting up like a decrepit old man, as in I have to literally almost roll myself out of bed, and it takes me a good amount of time to kind of loosen up, to get some kind of suppleness back in my body, even to the extent of bending down and putting my socks on. Massive chore, and that's quite alarming for me because I'm 43, and that's why I thought, well, maybe I'm not stretching or doing enough things. And I've always been anti-stretch. Quite debatable and controversial, I know, because whenever you do any exercise, what's the first thing that people kind of, or teachers or instructors will tell you to do? To warm up and stretch and all that side of things. Now, let's be clear here. I'm not against warming up and warming down. I'm against stretching. So my philosophy has always been to do dynamic stretching. So when I go out for a run, this is day 1809 of consecutive daily running, 7.5 kilometres daily average. There's everything from ultra marathons to marathons included in that running streak. So all distances. And I don't think, I mean, other than potentially a marathon or ultra marathon where I do a bit more of a kind of a structured stretching process as a warm up, if you like, but I still try and keep it as dynamic as possible. So I rarely do the whole, you know, stand there static and stretching. I'm normally trying to do something in a dynamic motion. So what I mean by that is stretching with movement. My, you know, like I say, 1809 days of consecutive daily running without ever stretching, kind of certainly before, and I'm very guilty of never doing it after, which is probably why I get this kind of stiffness in the mornings, where my body's been trying to heal itself overnight. I wake up in the morning and I get a lot of muscle fatigue and stiffness that my body kind of has to adjust to before I feel back to normal level of suppleness. And the scary thing is that I'm 43 now. I dread to think what it's going to be like when I'm 63, 20 years down the line. So it is a consideration. But what I do when I'm running, you see, is my way of loosening and stretching and warming up is I start my runs really slow. And for the first half a mile or so, I'm running at a very slow pace, small steps to get my muscles warm and loose before I then start opening my stride and getting a little bit more pace into the workout. And because I'm not focused on hitting times every time I do a run, it's just about getting the run done and enjoying the run as best I can. So that's kind of how I counteract that. I don't warm down. I think that's probably a bigger issue for me. Is quite often I could be, doing a bit of a faster end to my run because I'm obviously warm and fresh, and then I don't do a stretch down at the end or warm down. So obviously I'm walking about the house as normal, and then if I sit down for any period of time, I then stiffen up. So that's quite common practice, and that's ultimately what's happening when I go to sleep. I've done my workout for the day, I then sit down for a prolonged period of time, or lie down for a prolonged period of time, and then inevitably I'm waking up and I'm incredibly stiff. So maybe I need to test and measure this for me. I think obviously stretching is quite an interesting one because I've done a little bit of looking into this, and there's a lot of evidence out there that suggests stretching is an absolute necessity, and there's also a lot of evidence that says you don't need to stretch, but you do need to warm up and warm down in a dynamic fashion, and that's kind of how I operate. And maybe it should be that my kind of warm downs, I should slow my pace for the last mile or so, or half a mile, or half a kilometre, whatever, just to kind of slow the kind of stress levels in my muscles at the end of a run, to see if that has any benefit to how I'm feeling. But yeah, ultimately, I haven't really answered the question here because I don't really know. I'm going by my experience. So the learnings from my diary today is that to stretch or not to stretch when exercising, okay? It's a debatable topic because I've never stretched. I've done 1,809 consecutive days of running, and well, I say I never stretched. I do a little bit of stretching before an ultra marathon or a marathon, where it's going to be putting my body through extreme levels of stress. But for my daily 7.5 kilometre run, I never stretch before or after. I just don't. And for people to say, "Oh, you have to do it. It's essential to avoid injury and all that type of stuff," I would argue with those people because I'm living proof. I've run 1,809 consecutive days running, and I haven't had huge injury-related problems. In fact, I've had more injuries in the past where I have done sports where I've stretched before and after and all that side of things. So I'm only going by my experience here, just to make this abundantly clear. I'm not advising you against that. Now, what my take on it, again, this is not advice, this is just my experience and my assessment of the situation, is that dynamic stretching, warming up and warming down, is far more kind of beneficial than what you classify as your kind of static stretching process where you stand and touch your toes. I'm talking about kind of walking lunges would be a good example of dynamic stretching, or doing a run and starting really slow, just getting your muscles moving, getting the blood flow through your muscles, and then gradually increasing the speed of pace. That would be what I'd classify as a dynamic stretching process, or something that's like a warm-up as opposed to a static stretching process. I do need to think about afterwards because, as I've explained in this episode, I'm getting a lot of muscle stiffness, and certainly in the mornings when I wake up, it takes me a while to get going. Maybe that could be age, maybe that could just be my genetical kind of makeup, but I don't think it is. I think that's definitely down to the volume of exercise that I'm doing, and the lack of a specific routine, so to speak, in terms of warm up and warm downs. So in summary, what I would suggest, I'm not advising, I'm just suggesting from my experience. I'm going to have a little play around, test and measure experiment here with different things before and after exercise to see what difference it makes, because what I am very aware of is I don't want to be getting up in the mornings and it's just getting progressively worse, where I've got huge amounts of stiffness and almost mobility issues, and it may only take 10-15 minutes to get going, but that's 10-15 minutes every day that I'd love to kind of not have to go through the process of loosening up. I'd rather be able to wake up, feel good, rather than feeling a bit of a chore. So I'm going to test and measure and trial and experiment with a few different kind of routines to see if it makes a different impact, and I'll report back to this on different blog episodes in the future when I've got a bit of kind of feedback from what I'm doing see if it makes a difference. I think this has been amplified to a degree whilst I've been away, because not only have I been running, but I've also been playing golf, and that's been affecting more of my upper body, like my back and my twist and my hips and that side of things, which are muscles and joints that I haven't been using to that level of kind of strenuous or sort of stress levels in the same level of frequency as 3 rounds in 3 days. I'm not used to that. I think before I've played 3 rounds in 3 days, the last time I played a round was about 2 years ago. So you can clearly see that my muscles are not used to this type of motion, and I think that's what's ultimately amplified or re-emphasised the issue whilst I've been away on this retreat. So I think when I go back to just daily running, waking up in the mornings, I probably feel a lot less. This is a lot less of an issue than what I've experienced over the last couple of days. So I'll report back when I've tested the measure. I'm going to try doing some dynamic warm up and warm downs as part of my run though, because one thing I'm always keen about is I'm ruthless with my time, and I don't want to feel like I'm extending what's already an incredibly demanding schedule of running every single day. I don't want to extend that window longer than it needs to be extended to, so I'm going to try and incorporate a warm up and warm down within the run. The only caveat to that will be when I'm marathon training or training for a race, and pace is a bit more of an issue, where I have to focus on my pace a little bit more. I have to think of something a little bit different for those periods. But I think on the whole, a slower warm up and a slower warm down could be a good place to start. Certainly when I'm not marathon training, I have to think of something a little bit different whilst I'm training. But I'll report back with my findings as I find them. But the days to my diary are test and measure. Sometimes something that works for you might be a little bit controversial in terms of what advice and logic is out there, but I'm a strong believer that we're all different. And although there are general principles that can apply on a mass level, I think certainly things like recovery of your joints and things, some people are just built differently and have amazing powers of recovery, where other people find recovering from exercise and workouts to be a lot more strenuous. So understand your body and try and find something that works for you. Obviously take a little bit of research and advice to ensure that you're not doing anything that's going to be detrimental or damage you. But I think if you go in with that kind of mindset and approach, I think you might find something that works quite effectively for you within the general sphere of the advice out there. So that's it for me. Questions or comments, drop me a line. I'll respond to anything that's relevant. Do remember though, if you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of lap of the world, barefoot style, do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always. Stay positive, stay happy. I'll see you again tomorrow.